Welcome to the SWIKE podcast, the only podcast that shares the stuff you didn't know you needed to know about jobs, careers, and life. The SWIKE podcast, the stuff I wish I knew earlier.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the SWIKE Stuff I Wish I Knew Earlier podcast. We're here with one of our guest mentors, Alex Luksidadi, who basically comes to us from a background in tech and entrepreneurship. And Alex, if you don't mind introducing yourself and letting us know what you are doing now, and then we will get back to back in time and ask a little bit about more. How were you like as a kid?
Thank you for having me here, Luki. So my name is Alexander Luksidadi. Funny enough, actually my name is longer than that, as you know, probably some Indonesian people, they have like such a long name.
Right.
So my real name is like Fitra Alexander Luksidadi Sudibyo. And the crazy thing is like, my real name is, people call me Daddy. And that's not even my first name. It's somewhere in the middle of my middle name. It's just like so weird. And then like it's because it's too long, they cut it in the passport, so my middle name became my last name. And when I came here, when I say my name Daddy, people starting to get weird pretty quickly.
Right.
It's like, who's your daddy? That kind of thing. So I was like, you know what? My name is Alex from now on. So there you go. There's a little bit of history of my name. So what I do now, other than probably like being neck deep into like crypto stuff or blockchain, or I guess like learning learning guitar. I'm pretty passionate about my guitar stuff, so that's what I do usually most of the time on the weekend. Other than that, like I have a company called Rose Rocket, and what we do there is we're building, I would say, like the future of trucking technology. We're building like a network of these freight participants, whether they're like shippers or trucking companies or brokers, to be able to like collaborate with each other in real time, because the nature of the how they work, they're already like very collaborative, but as it has to go through like the phone or email and whatsoever. So we're building those connective tissues so that they can talk to each other's.
That's amazing. So I'd love to go back in time and talk a little bit about who Alex, who Daddy was when he was a kid. So what was it like growing up and kind of taking us from that journey to where you are now?
Ooh, okay. So back in time. Okay, I think I'm gonna go at earliest before I moved to Canada.
Okay.
You know what, a little bit before that. Yeah. So I guess like a junior high. I don't think I'm like the one of the. I'm not definitely not one of the smartest kids in the class. I'm always like just okay. I think I always like kind of rely heavily on like my math skill, because
Okay.
like to me math, I don't need to memorize anything. I just need to understand what they do, how this becomes this, and then somehow I can figure out like formula pretty quickly in my head, as long as I know the logic.
Mhm.
And this is like basically a long way of me saying that I don't like studying. I only like learning. I think that's probably it is like I just learned something today. um, I think learning is underrated,
Mm.
but studying is overrated. I don't know.
Right.
Is that even like a something that rhymes? But I see there's like a difference between the education back in Indonesia that I had back in Indonesia, that like it's not effective. Like they try to like put us into like a curriculum that nobody probably like interested in learning. So they just have to memorize things. They just need to get the grades, and then they graduate, and then that's it. The job's done, right? But like I think for me, I'm always drawn into like, if I'm passionate about something, I want to understand that thing and to the bone. I will read books and everything. Like for example, music. Like back in the day, like I would just buy books to just understand why music sounds so good. Right? It's just like I'm always curious about like the why, and try to dig deep into it. Just like how I'm so interested in blockchain right now. It's just like every day I probably spend like a couple hours to just like read up on like how things work.
Cool.
So I
So
think
when
that's like, okay, go ahead.
no, I was gonna say like as you're growing up, so it sounds like that you were kind of the uh, smart lazy kid in the sense that you want to kind of maximize while doing the least type of work in terms of like studying. Were you like a sporty kid? It sounds like you were more of the musical kind, but it's not like it doesn't sound like you're the studious type where you were doing a lot of homework and stuff. So music was in the mix. Were there sports and other activities there?
Oh, yeah, that's all my life in Indonesia is just like sports and music.
Okay.
Play soccer pretty much like every day, and also practice guitar a couple hours a day.
Cool. And was that mostly like on your own? Well, I guess you can't really play soccer on your own, but like were
Yeah.
there a core group of friends? Was it more organized in terms of like a team sport, or is it just like kind of like no, let's just go to find a field and let's have at it?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I actually just realized something today too. I always like the aspect of like the community,
Okay.
especially when learning, because like when you have a community learning things together, because like everybody don't know anything, and then like if you have a group of people who have like the same interest, and then just like try to learn about something together, it's always more fun. And that's kind of it back in Indonesia. I feel like community of like soccer people who like actually practice to build their soccer skill.
Hmm.
And same with the guitar stuff. I have a community of like guitarists in my neighborhood, literally my neighbor. Um, and we learned guitar together. Like we went through like all these hard time figuring out scales and all those things. It's just more fun. And then now that I think about it, like in here, I also have like a group of like people who also very interested in crypto, and we're all like kind of, some people are already know a lot of things, some people don't, but I like that aspect of just like having a community that we can just learn from each other's. It doesn't matter what level you are, and I'm actually also enjoyed of like if some newcomer coming into the community, I can be a mentor. I can like teach them and get them up to speed.
Cool.
It is kind of like something that I love doing. Even until today, for this crypto group, like for example, if there's a new member, I would schedule like an hour or two on the weekend to just like help them get ramp up. Um, yeah.
That's amazing. So sounds like again that forever learner is in there. And then tell us a little bit more about the influences of like growing up and what you were expected to do. So I don't know if math's not really a career per se, right? And parents don't necessarily want you to become a soccer player nor a guitar sensation, that sort of thing. But what were some of the influences that led you to kind of your career path?
I think I'm blessed to have my parents. They don't really push me on any directions, but
Okay.
they do have some sort of I don't know what we call it, like rule principles. I don't know.
Okay.
But for me, like for example, my mom, I think her teaching is all about take responsibility of your actions. So if you chose something, then you got to be responsible for it. Or if you do something, you have to be responsible for it.
Mhm.
So at the end of the day, like my mom's kind of pretty liberal. I can be whatever I want, type of thing. And then my dad is always about like, okay, well, you will have a family, so you you have to be able to feed them.
Sure.
So, and then at the time, I told my dad actually like I want to become a musician.
Hmm.
And then my dad was like, well, okay, first of all, like how are you gonna feed your family, right? And then second, uh, I'm not gonna pay for your school because I know you're not gonna do well. I'm not gonna invest something that's gonna work out, something like
Right.
that, right? And then that is kind of the why that's kind of lead me into wanting to become a programmer, because at the time I used to record music in computer.
Okay.
I mean, I'm also already like drawn into like computer stuff. Like I did a little bit of programming here and there, but just because my dad told me like I couldn't go for music school, basically I was like, you know what? I'm gonna become programmer, and then I'm gonna make music software, or I'm gonna join a company that makes music software,
Right.
and then I'm gonna be back at music. So that was my thoughts.
Cool.
Uh, and then yeah, fast forward until today, I'm actually getting closer back to music because like you know what, like that you're right. Now soon, probably hopefully soon, like I'll be able to achieve like financial freedom, and then I can go back to become a musician. Right? There's there's a different way to get there. I know it takes longer, but like it's actually better, right? Compared to, let's say, I chose music as something that I would use to make my living, then I think I'm gonna have a tough time, right? Especially now COVID, like I don't know how I can't
Right.
imagine it. Right?
Yeah, all the
So
musicians must be struggling a bit now because obviously no live performances, and to do like a Zoom concert is not nearly the same thing, right? So, can you talk to us a little bit about kind of that transition? So you're, I guess, in high school, and your dad says, "Son, I'm not going to pay for music school, so you got to have to get like some sort of reputable degree or whatever." And you ended up I guess doing your schooling in Toronto, and what was the kind of journey to select the place that you'd want to go to, and like did you have other options along the way, like different parts of the world that you were going to, or was Toronto and Canada always in the mix?
it's funny. I'm a bit embarrassed telling you this, but so I actually didn't want to go anywhere. I wanted to stay in Indonesia
Okay.
because I was chasing this girl,
Okay.
which is my wife now, actually.
So that's good. Yeah.
And then I want to stay in Indonesia. So, but then again, same thing. Like my mom and dad basically telling me that I have to go abroad because like I will have a better education. They actually like graduated from university from the States,
Okay.
so they know like this will help me set my life better, in the future. So they want me to go abroad, and so I was adamant. I want to stay in Indonesia, blah blah blah. But then my wife now, basically, the girl who I was chasing back then, rejected me.
Oh.
And I was like, okay, fine, I'll go to Canada. So we went to like some education fair. I wasn't motivated at all, really. Like I was just I went there with my parents. They kind of like, okay, let's check out that booth over there. So I think there's a couple that we checked out, and then there was this. Basically, we came to a Seneca College booth.
Mhm.
Um, so that's what happened. We just like register, and then next thing I know, I got the admission, and I have to buy a ticket to Canada.
Okay. Cool. So it's really not much of a decisioning process. It was kind of like
Yeah.
a one day, okay, that looks good. Like there's nothing kind of tying me back into uh, to, to Indo. So let's kind of pick up everything and go there. So talk to a little bit about the first couple of days, like maybe the transition process as you kind of landed in Toronto and starting up at Seneca. What was that journey like?
Hmm. The journey was pretty interesting. Like it's definitely a learning experience. Like coming from Indonesia, as you probably know, most people have like maid, and yeah, we live pretty good over there.
Mhm.
But then when here, everything I have to do it myself. It's just okay. It's not a big problem for me. But I think the biggest problem for me when I came here is really like finding those community,
Mhm.
especially like music and sports, soccer. I couldn't find it. It was tough. Um, but I think like during that time, as I started like my programming, programming school, I started to like really like programming. That I think that's probably where I started like thinking that this is actually for me. I like problem solving. I like just logic, um, and it was good. Like Seneca College was pretty good. If funny enough, like after Seneca College, like my parents told me, like, oh, they just found out that Seneca only gave diploma. So my parents basically wanted me to have a bachelor degree, right? So they told me like I have to find a university, get a bachelor degree. I was like, okay, fine. And then that's when I decided to go to Ryerson. But if I have to compare between like Ryerson and Seneca College, I actually learned more at Seneca College.
Hmm.
I don't know. I think maybe this is because of my style of like learning. I like being practical. I like just doing it rather than like reading manual. I think like this is like people are different, right? I think some people will like the more the academic stuff, like reading like papers and books and what's on. I like just doing it and then learn from mistakes. And that was Seneca, just basically coding, and then it was fun. But when I get to Seneca, it was like a lot of them are just theories, like maths, a little bit of coding here and there. It wasn't fun. It was almost just like I need to pass this through. I just need to get the degree, and then I'm done.
So what was that process like? So your parents say, "Hey, go to Canada, get this Canadian degree." Oops, it's not a degree, it's a diploma. So we now you have to do that other thing. So you make it through Ryerson, and you say it's not as interesting, and you kind of have to go through the motions. Like, what's that process like? Is it just kind of like, yeah, I mean, I'll do it just to get to the end, or was there like other things that kind of helped you along the way?
Yeah, definitely. I just need to get the degree. That's it. But during Ryerson, actually, I found something that kind of changed my life.
Hmm.
Um, the something is the startup world. So during Ryerson, I think I'm on the second year. There was this guy. His name is Bob. He basically told me, "Hey, I'm gonna go to San Francisco. I'm gonna try something there, and so on. And do you want to come with me?" I'm like, "No, I can't. I'm like international student. I can't just go outside the country and go and go to U.S. to work, right?" And then this guy uh, basically did that, and then a year later he came back. He came back with a wealth of knowledge. It's amazing how like someone who just stayed in San Francisco for a year and came back becomes some sort of like someone who are just like people would just pay for his knowledge
Right.
or expertise. The rate of learning over there is just exponential, especially if you're part of like the tech startup or you're working for a tech startup over there. It's just exponential. Whereas me in Ryerson, I didn't. I just had to go through that year. So this guy came back and then like basically tell me like I have a company. Like I'm partnering with like this friend. His name is Eric. And then we're gonna start working in his garage. And then we're gonna build a Facebook game. At the time, it was like 2003, four, something like that.
Okay.
Um, so that's where basically I learned about how cool startup is, and there's so much things to learn. It's almost like I have to wear multiple different hats, which I like.
Okay.
Uh, like for example, you can't just like code. You have to pay attention to the marketing. You have to think about the business as well. But I think the most important thing that I learned there is like I was fortunate. Eric, the guy who started the company with my friend Bob, he was a very analytical person. So one day he called me out. Hey Alex, like come here. Um, remember why I want you to build like this analytics tool? Okay,
Okay.
here's why. So he showed me like look at this. There's a button over here on the left. It's green, and I'm gonna put it on the left. And there's another one. It's I don't know some other color. I forgot what. And then it's on the right. Okay. And then I'm gonna run like a marketing campaign on each one of these, and then we'll see what happens tomorrow. And look at the number of profit that we have today, right? Okay, I checked it out. I forgot what the number was. Let's just call it like a $1,000 for that day. So the next day he ran that experiment for a day, and then the next day he called me again. Yeah, Alex, check this out. Apparently, like people likes to click the button on the right. I don't know. I don't know why, but like the data shows me that. So now the next day I'm gonna make the button on the right for all the traffic. Okay, cool. I still don't get what he wants to like tell me there, but like the next day after he ran the experiment, he called me again, check this out. The revenue is like now $2,000.
Mm.
It's just like simple tweak like that that you can do based on the data. Um, made me think, wow, this is cool. And that's probably the day I said to myself, like, this is what I want to do. And it's funny because like when you came from a country like Indonesia and you go to like abroad like Canada or US, like usually like you came with a culture where you want to join like a big company like Google, IBM. That's what I said. Like I said to myself, I'm gonna work for IBM during those time in Seneca or early day in Ryerson before I knew startup world. I'm gonna work for IBM. Then after that day, no, startup is my world.
That's awesome. So help us continue on in the journey. So you've now, I guess you've graduated soon, right? And then you get hired by your friend's company who's helping with Facebook games. And do you continue
Actually,
on there?
that's
And
before I graduated.
oh, that's before
Yeah,
graduating. Okay.
that's like on my third year or fourth
Okay.
year. Yeah, because like Bob dropped out at second year and he came back a year and a half later. So probably in my third or fourth year. Yeah.
Okay.
Uh, yeah. So after I graduated, you had it when you said last time I'm a lazy like just I want to that's what happened after I graduated. I was being lazy. All my friends were looking for jobs, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna write a script. So I wrote a script to just parse. At the time, there's no like other job posting. There's only like Monster.ca, Workopolis, and Kijiji. No, not even Kijiji. Craigslist.
Yeah.
So I built a script that I didn't know how to build it. I just like quickly just Google and figure it myself, like how to build like the script to parse like web pages. And I started parsing through like Craigslist, Monster.ca, and Workopolis, and scrape everything, put in a database. This is also kind of like a way for me to learn because I like just learning while solving my own problem.
Sure.
My problem at the time is looking for a job.
Yep.
So, and I don't want to do it. It sounds tedious. So I just wrote a script, put them all in my own database, and I built some sort of a filtering and a user interface where it's like a table. Um, I'm also pretty embarrassed to say this. I didn't even read all most of the job description. I just I just filter by like PHP, for example, and I click select all, and there's a button here that's basically send resume and cover letter. But if the filter is basically PHP, the cover letter will be like customized, tailored to like basically emphasizing that I know PHP
Sure.
and so on. And I even like for example, when I filtered like .NET or something, I don't know how to do .NET, but like whatever. And I think that's also one of the things like I never I lie a lot in resume. A lie, not as in like I don't know anything about it. I know something about it, but I'm not expert on it. But I would know if like people ask me question in the interview about like, oh, what do you think about like this thing that you said in the resume? You know it. I would probably know how to like say like the pros and cons and like why I like it, and that's usually enough. Because to me, it's not lying because to me I will learn about it pretty quickly. So if as long as I just know like the high level of what this thing is, I will learn it on the job pretty
Right.
quickly. just
Yeah.
just know that.
Yeah, and I think that's some of the challenges with the current job hunt process. When someone puts PHP or .NET or whatever, what does that even mean? Like, are they an expert at it? Did they read a book? Did they just watch one YouTube video, or have they been using it for the past like 8 years or something like that? So it's hard to know off a resume, and then you have to get through the interview. But it sounds like you did pretty well for yourself. So after doing that, you went through the process, and was it like a long process? Did your script work, and you were able to
Oh
land
yeah,
something pretty well?
so the script. Yeah, so after I ran it, I got a job pretty much in less than 2 weeks, and I got
Okay.
3 job offers. Um, so and I also kind of like hacked this through. This is like so Y-Combinator have this question about like tell me about the time you hacked the system to your advantage, something like that. So I put the stories basically. I did that script that kind of like a number game because like I'm increasing my chance to get a
Sure.
job by just like mass emailing all these like job posting. And then I have like a several like job interviews, but I that's when I pick. I had 3 picks over there. The first one I went to interview, and then he basically offered me. At the time, I think the kind of like the normal salary is for fresh graduate is about like 35K
Mhm.
or something like that. So they offered me 30K, and then I was like, okay, cool. Let me think about that. And then the next job that I interviewed offered me as well, and then they offered me about I think 40 something.
Okay.
I like this one actually. I like this job, and I was like, okay, cool. Now the third one, they told me they like me as well, and then they offered me. I forgot what that is, but I told them like, uh, well, they're the one who asked me like, what is your salary expectation? So I'm like, well, I already got 30K and 40 something K. So I'm just gonna say 50K. So I put 50K there, and then they actually gave me 50K. But then I won the second one. I won the second job who offered me 40 something K. So I came back there and then told me, hey, like I really want this job, and but the other one offered me 50K. And they're like, okay, cool, we'll give you 50K. So in the end, I got the job that I want and the salary that pretty much like none of the people in my cohort will had that kind of salary.
That's amazing. So some of it is one is a bit of that persistence and well, even though I called you lazy, that's probably not the right word. The right word is probably more efficient is the right word to use because there is a lot of work involved, but just in a different sort of way. And I think that's amazing that knowing the numbers and having those opportunities, then you can choose, right? And then you could potentially kind of negotiate your salary in the sense that, well, when you have multiple offers, you can do that. But when you're with one offer or no offers, you can't really be that much more choosy. So
Yeah.
talk us through a little bit about now that you've graduated, you're starting work, your first job. How did it feel? Like, was this this was a smaller company, I would imagine, not the big giant companies. And then how did you progress over to starting your own company? Because eventually you started Rose Rocket.
Mm-hmm. So this job was a startup as well.
Mhm.
The CTO who I had at the time for that first job is now actually working at Rose Rocket because he was like the best manager I've ever had,
Nice.
and I wanted him to be in the team. Anyway, yeah. So I learned a lot in that first job, but I think this is back to like how I get here, how I founded Rose Rocket is probably also a number game because all my professional career, I have a full-time job. I always have, because of those people, Bob and Eric, after those experience on that summer, I always have like a side project on the side.
Mm.
And I guess that's why also I built those script because like after like that experience with Eric and Bob, like I keep on building stuff for myself because they're they're the thing about them is like they're the type of people who would just do it. They don't talk too much. They're like, we have an idea, do it. We have an idea, do it. And the faster you do it, the faster you fail, or the faster you learn, or the faster you pivot, right?
Yep.
If you just keep thinking too much about, oh, what about this? What about the rat? Or what about if people sue us? I had like some of those startups who just like always think about like what if,
Right.
just never get there. So back to the number game. So I always have full-time job, and it's always like a freelance project or a startup projects. And one of the first startup project that I had in 2009 was with my co-founder now, Justin Sky. It's called Spans. It was more of a startup. I joined his startup, but this is because like I've been involved to some startups randomly here and there, and then when you're part of those community of like of people who's trying to build something, I think there's always like words of mouth of like, hey, you need a developer. You have an idea. You need a developer. Like I might know a guy, and then my name probably came up with during some of those conversations. So Justin at the time, he had a partner called, his name is Pavel, and Pavel knows me. And since Pavel knows I do a lot of like startup stuff, he called me, hey, you want to join me? I was like, yeah, sure. And so by the time, that wasn't the only startup that I had. I have a bunch of other things. So I think if I have to count, I have probably at least 10 plus startups project that I have. Some of them actually just a project that died a month later. Some could last longer years, and then and a bunch of freelance work as well. And the thing about like all these startups project that I did, most of them are for free. It's as in like I'm not getting paid. It's bootstrap. Um and I don't mind because like to me the fun thing about like doing those is actually the learning.
Right.
I get to learn a lot of things, and some of the learning that I did, this is probably like the stuff I wish I knew, is picking the right partner.
Mm.
It's very hard. It's like I have to go through so many different iterations of different type of partners, and also the composition of the founding team is also very important. Because I had like a team of like 7 developers. Nobody
Right.
knows anything about the business or marketing. That's also not good. Um, but the more importantly, you want a founders, you want a partners who have the same level of energy, because like if I'm working 100 hours a week, and if my partner only works like 4 hours a week,
Right.
I don't know. I don't like that. And that will demotivate people, like those type of thing, right? And then there's also a partner who don't want to get their hands dirty, or who don't want to wear multiple different hats. The thing about startups is there's so many things to do. Like even with 3 partners, like I have 2 other partners, with 3 people, it's still not enough. Like there's just so many things to do. So what all the partners can do is actually learn a little bit of like a skill to fill in the gaps. Like for
Right.
example, who's gonna do the bookkeeping? Like if nobody raised their hands, then like not good. Or for example, in early days, there's always more development to it. So I'm blessed. Like for example, my partner now, Justin Sky, like he would just like, hey, teach me coding, right? And then I will help you. So those are the type of partner you want, like the partner who understand that we're all in this together. Like the faster we prove that we have a product market fit, the better. Like it's not like, oh, you do me because like this is what I do the best, but like try to even out the skill gaps, because there's a lot of gaps when you start starting a company.
Yeah, that's amazing. So what I took from that is do instead of think, right? So a lot of that is just get involved, learn, and make mistakes. You talked about failing fast. I like what you said about learning fast. Like it's not really failing; it's just learning a lot along the way. And then also the composition of the partner. So figuring out like what are the complements. It sounds like I think that's a great way to put it, where it's the energy level, where it's not necessarily like you're the business, you're the tech guy, but what I heard was the business person learned coding, right? And so that he could help out. And then maybe the tech guy learned to do the bookkeeping or whatever, right? Just to kind of help. And as long as there's people who to cover off each other's gaps, and there was willingness to kind of help to succeed, that was really kind of the recipe for success. So talk to us a little bit about kind of the early days of starting it up. So now that you've found a couple of partners that you really want to kind of start something with, talk about Rose Rocket, and I understand that you got into Y-Combinator, which for those that are familiar with the startup world is probably one of the like it's the Harvard of from a startup perspective. So talk to us a little bit about that, and then yeah, a little bit of some of the maybe key milestones, and hopefully some of the challenges along the way, because a lot of people talk about the successes, but it's hard work, right? It's a lot of challenging stuff along the way. So what is some of that journey?
Yeah. So when we first started, I mean, like, you know what? Before Rose Rocket, there was another company. It's called FreightNext. I wasn't actually part of the founding team there, or the founding team. Uh, but basically, I was the first engineer type of employee. So during that time, I was actually kind of already, if it, maybe like without the title founder, I'm already kind of treated as a founder.
Hmm.
I'm already part of the company, and what happened there is like we weren't doing well, and we had to go like no paycheck for 1.5 year. And this is the part why I said like I'm kind of already a founder, because like when they told me that they're not gonna be able to pay me, like basically Justin told me, hey dude, sorry, no more money.
Okay.
Uh, like, okay, cool. I'm gonna stay here, right? I'm okay with that. And you know what? Luckily, like I have some cushion in the bank, because before I joined FreightNext, before FreightNext, before Rose Rocket, I was at Viva Systems. So Viva System went public a year before I joined Freihtnext. And Justin actually already called me a year before that, like basically before they went IPO. So Justin called me, hey, you want to join me? Like I'm starting a new company. I met this like gentleman named Justin Bailey. He was from he used to be like a freight broker for like several years, and then now he wants to start like a technology company, building something for brokerage or trucking companies. Um, but at the time I was like, very interested because at the time I was like already super bored at Viva System.
Okay.
Literally bored as in like I'm always like driven by growth, and I felt like I'm not growing. I already did a lot of like freelance projects on the side, but still like I felt like I could do more. And
Mhm.
when Justin asked me that, like yes, I'm in. But let me cash out some of the stock options that I have. It's not I won't be able to cash out everything, but at least like something so that I have cushion in the back.
Right.
So that came handy. And it was crazy as well. If I think about it, like those stock options today, if I calculate it, it's probably almost like $1 million USD. And I'm okay. Like, see, this is the type of thing that I do. I don't think too much. I was kind of driven by what I want, which is growth, which is learning and having like all these chaos and fun doing a startup stuff. So I'm sold, even though I have to let go so much different so much money. So that's what I did, and then I have some cushion. Justin told me like not gonna be able to pay me. I'm fine, and I let that saving drain. And then it was tough. That was the tough moment where basically I went into debt. Um, it was tough. Justin had to go drive Uber. I have to like find some odd jobs out there, like just some freelance work I found on Kijiji or something. I just started to like calling my friends, hey, do you have like work for me? Do you have like work for me?
Right.
Luckily, like some of those like gave some work for me. And that was the tough time. We were hurt financially big time, and at one point we told ourselves like, this is it, like let's shut this down. But at the end of that journey, we learned so much about the industry, what works, what didn't work, and then we saw some white space on the kind of like still in the freight ecosystem, but more on the brokerage sides.
Mm.
So I think there's a brokerage company came to us basically asking us to build a modern software for them, and they're paying us some amount of money. I forgot what that is, but definitely not enough to even like pay our company debt,
All right.
let alone just to like pay us again. So we took that money and then naively we were like, okay, you know what? Let's do this again, and then but we all like told ourselves, but we gotta promise ourselves. If let's say by next year we didn't get into YC or we couldn't raise money, then that's it. Like we just have to go back to find a full-time job and that's it. Right. But
Okay.
okay, cool. We gave it a try. And early day again, like we tried to find more customers. We couldn't find any customers. It was tough. The product that we're building, over time, we figured out that if we have to compete with the other like similar product in the market, it will take us probably at least 5 years to build it out, right?
Right.
So we didn't stand a chance against like all these like existing players. So YC basically starting to accept applications. So we applied for it. We put a lot of work into like preparing ourselves for YC. We did mock interview. We tried to find like a fellow YC founders or alumni in Ryerson. We found like this guy Chris Nguyen. He was from Ryerson. He had like a startup who's pretty successful as well. He coached us on like how to do the interview. He reviewed our like application, um, and yeah, luckily like they called us for interview. We flew to San Francisco or the Valley. We did the interview, and we got in. It was awesome. It was amazing because it's kind of like new breath of air after like almost like 2 years of not getting paid and like suffering and all those things. Uh, and then so YC happened. We went there for like 3 months. And good thing like they gave us some seed money, so we were
Right.
able to just breathe a little bit. But still pretty hard because like we still don't have a product market fit. We still can't sell anything. Um, but after YC, we raised more money, and we came back to Toronto, built the team. Still, I think a year after that, it was still hard. We closed some customers, they churned because they think that, oh, cool, you guys building the future of like TMS, transportation management system. Is that is the software that we're building. Um, and whenever like they like the idea of like something disruptive, something more modern, but then the time they have to use the software, they started, okay, this is not working out, you guys
Okay.
missing so many things, and they churn, and then I think like we're starting to get some good customers, and some good revenue, probably on our third year, I would say. Second, no, not second year. Yeah, I would say like probably second year. Yeah, second, third year. Even though at second year it's still hard because like there's still a lot of churn. Um, but yeah, it was tough. I
That's
mean,
amazing.
even until today, it's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough. Yeah.
I think that's probably a whole episode on its own where we talk about the whole YC experience, and even the startup is probably multiple episodes. But yeah, I think that's amazing. So right now, I'd love if you can share kind of a high level of what is your swipe, the stuff I wish I knew earlier, for any points in time. I know you shared a little bit about that, but just to kind of close off, and then what are some of the future aspirations for Rose Rocket and yourself, and yeah, hopefully folks can reach out to you if they're interested in learning more. But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, please. I mean, like, I like helping new entrepreneurs. So if there's anybody, sometimes like you want to learn about like building a startups or something like that. Like once a while, I accepted some random people on my LinkedIn and it just helped them out. Uh, I just like doing that. So yeah, anybody who's interested, like try your luck. Send an invite on me on LinkedIn.
sounds good.
uh, Anyway, I would say I wouldn't change anything, even though if I knew those things back in the day, because like I think those are all the mistakes that I did back then kind of leads to where I am right now. But if I have to pick like the stuff that I wish I knew back then, that's one of them is probably that finding the right business partner. I think it's important, but also at the same time, it's hard because you have to kind of have to go through that journey. You
Mm,
might be able to like figure out, oh yeah, it might work out with this guy, but then like the thing about like knowing your founder is like after you work for a year, then that's when you know whether you like him or not. um, and how to say no. I think that's
okay.
very important skill that I'm still trying to learn. I think naturally I just like pleasing people. So I'm kind of ashamed to admit that I'm kind of like a people pleaser naturally, but I'm trying to get better. So just how to say no. Part of the reason why I also have so many different like projects that I did is because I also don't know how to say no. I just say yes all the time. But then again, see, like I wouldn't change that. Like if I know how to say no back then, maybe I will say no to Justin Sky, and then I Rose Rocket will never happen.
Right.
Um, and then I think another one is there are many ways to do what you want to do. Like for example, for me, music. It doesn't have to be how you make your living from.
Right.
But thankfully, I was forced out to make that decision by my dad. But yeah, like now that I know, like I could still become a musician at the end of the day. Like I just don't need to be the one that for me making money. And the last one, I think life is gray. It's just like it's all about like finding middle ground, finding what works today, but it might not work tomorrow, and knows the pros and cons, the consequences, and and just be responsible of all those things, right? I think that would be all the SIWIKE.
Yeah,
And uh,
that's amazing. So I think that's a lot of useful information. Again, each one of these are probably episodes on their own. Yeah, if folks want to reach out, we'll add your kind of probably your LinkedIn information and take your chance, reach out, and hopefully you'll get a response. And if not, then don't worry about it. Reach out and try someone else because I'm sure there's someone else that's there to help. But thanks so much, Alex, for sharing your story, and hopefully we'll have you back for a future episode.
thank you, Luke.
Take care.
Take care.
Thanks for joining us on the SWIKE Stuff I Wish I Knew Earlier, the podcast. If you like the podcast, please subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you found this podcast. And if you can give us a review, that would be very appreciated. Feel free to contact me on LinkedIn at Lukidanu, Lukidanu, and the same on most social media platforms. And I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks. Bye.